Recombination Nation explores how cultural and biological experimentation can lead us to a post-industrial future, one that is more interesting and plausible than either Star Trek or Mad Max. If you want to support my work, sign up to my Substack, where you can read free weekly updates from my experimental farm, book reviews, and deep dives. A paid subscription gives you access to the audiobook of Taming the Apocalypse, a bold survey of the hidden domestication potential across the entire tree of life, plus my archive of over 150 past posts. Welcome to Recombination Nation. Today I'm talking to Thomas Picard from France, where he works with PEPS, a group that does evolutionary crop breeding of landraces. He's also done some organizing conferences, which I'm about to appear at one of them very soon. So I'll put all the details for that in the show notes if you want to follow it up and learn more about what is happening in this field, and particularly in Europe. And so we should probably dive straight into things. I'll get you, Thomas, to tell me a bit more about your own path through life that led you to landrace crop breeding.
Okay, hello to you and to everybody. So yeah, I'm 45. I've been a carpenter for most of my life. Let's say I've been doing carpentry for 20 years, and like something around 2021, I've come to know about Joseph Lofthouse breeding approach, and I was like, this is what I have to do. So I was already doing gardening for like 20 years, so I may have started gardening in 2004 or so, and I've been like a small scale gardener since, and then I changed from 2021 on to a bigger scale. You know.
Okay. So let's start out talking about particular crops that you're working with. And I've spotted a few notes about things that you're working on. Maybe do you want to start talking about cucurbits that you're doing landrace breeding with?
Yeah, I'm very passionate about cucurbits, and mostly the Cucurbita maxima, moschata, so butternut types, and in maxima things like cabocha, that kind of thing, and also melons and watermelons. So yeah, my journey with those land races or modern land races started in 2021 where I gathered for the first time something like from 12 to 40 varieties of each species of each crop, which I just planted on the same plot on the same land, and I let them cross-pollinate for first year. Because those plants are allogamous, so meaning the bees pollinate spontaneously those crops. So that's how you get out of the varieties bred true to type. And those open pollinated are just varieties in the sense that they are very stable, uniform, and I wanted them to cross pollinate. So that was the first step. The second year, I replicated the first year, just letting them cross-pollinate it again. And then my real selection journey started in 2023. And so I've been selecting out of that those many plants like for 3 years now.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, let me dig into
yeah,
some of the details. So, where did you
sure.
source that original diversity, and how did you make your choices of varieties?
Okay. I started being really involved in gardening, like intentionally, consciously in 2020 because I was very scared of the consequences of COVID and of the lockdowns in particular. So my obsession was to get something storable for a long time. So I stored my seeds from different organic catalogs in France in particular, but also in Europe, from seed swaps. And I was looking for mention of long storage for the cucurbits, meaning I could have some food for me and my surroundings throughout the entire winter or springtime if something bad happened. So that's how I get started.
And
I got started.
that's a really useful trait that's been mostly lost in modern market garden varieties that are bred to go to market and be sold and eaten in a really short period of time, or at least stored with like high technology, if they are going to be stored at all.
Mm. Yeah, with few exceptions, but yeah, the old varieties were really bred for storing a long time, and now it's more like, okay, you got your harvest, it has to be sold quickly. Yeah, yeah, that's the same thing in Europe. Yeah, you observe that same trend, with some exceptions like the Tetsu Kabuto interspecific hybrid, which could store up to a year,
Mm,
but that's
mm.
very marginal relatively to crop breeding. Yeah.
I'm curious too, because now that I think about it, pumpkins would have been introduced to Europe probably in the 1500s, 1600s.
Mm.
Am I guessing correctly about that time? So they only had a few centuries of pre-agriculture, pre-industrial adaptation to local conditions and cultures before the farming systems industrialized. So they've been through quite a wild journey since they arrived.
Yes, sure, and notably in Cucurbita pepo species, where you would find the zucchinis, courgette, or uh, it's known that Italy is the secondary source of diversification of that species, meaning throughout this only 4 centuries of planting, breeding, there has been a notable evolutions happening just in Italy
Mm.
since, yeah, for a few hundred years. Mm.
And would you agree too, like the cucurbits seem to be a crop that's uniquely suited to rapid evolution with the way that they pollinate and produce their seeds and the amount of diversity that's in the populations to begin. They seem to change for new circumstances rather quickly.
It's my feeling, more something that I could I don't have knowledge about it, but it's my feeling from the beginning, since the beginning. And yes, I would say so. And it's easier to when you want to start a land race, or you want to start crossing the things. Okay, the bees do the job for you. So to me, yeah, what you say sound. I mean, to me, it sounds like, okay, it's much faster than doing stuff with tomatoes, for example.
Mm.
Mm.
And so, what was your experience doing that variety trial in terms of like the diversity of like vigor and productivity and pest resistance, and how have those traits kind of transformed and combined during the selection process in the following generations?
Mm, uh, I was very. I did no trial in the sense of selecting before crossing. I
Hmm.
just gathered those varieties, and I just let them cross. Uh, if it had to be done again, I would pay closer attention to those varieties I would put in my mix. Because, for example, in Cucurbita peepos, I have an evolutionary population of long keepers, but there has been I've put in that mix too many varieties which were bred mostly for decorative purposes, or which were
Uh,
like I'm not talking about gourds, which would be like bitter or maybe with some level of toxicity,
mhm.
but things which have been more bred for just being nice. Right now I'm in the US, United States of America right now, and I've been just watching all around the Halloween stuff, so
Hmm.
pumpkins all over the place, and it's how I got to know how much Halloween has been impactful on the breeding scene. Meaning they have been breeding mostly, or partially for just having something nice to put on your stairs in front of your house. Meaning, okay, the flesh quality is not that good, but we don't care because, okay, it's just temporary.
Yeah,
So yeah,
just has to look
I've
great.
been yeah, I've been putting too diverse stuff. So yeah, I should have. If it has to be redone, I would pay closer attention to the real qualities of what I put in at least cucurbita people. Yeah.
Do you
Mhm.
have any advice for people who want to do a similar thing of where the sweet spot with the number of varieties to make the foundation of your own like evolutionary population for cucurbits? Is it, I don't know, I would guess about a dozen would kind of be about optimum.
I would not be too restrictive or too giving too narrow direction. I guess if you like two varieties, you could start with a simple cross.
Hmm.
But if you really enjoy cucurbit and if you have a lot of land and possibility to grow many plants, yeah, I'd say about 10 would be nice minimum.
Hmm.
But then it's up to you and up to what you want to see in next generation. So yeah, I don't want to be too restrictive.
Well, another strategy I've seen some people use that you can do that early high diversity Grex, but then you still
Hmm.
have the option of adding other pure
Yeah.
varieties into that population. And have you used that
Hmm.
at all to like steer the chaos and the complexity back towards a particular uh, known variety?
I did not. I went full on collecting as many varieties as I could in 2021 to start with.
Hmm.
But I did not intentionally, at least. But now I see that as I'm making not sufficient progress on Cucurbita maxima, I've had to buy new varieties or to introduce new varieties in my mixes. Yeah, with better in particular in better growing vigor qualities. Because I see, contrarily to Moschara, Cucurbita moschara, I see that in Cucurbita maxima, there is not enough vigor and health, pest resistance for what I want to do. I want really resistant crop, really vigorous crop in my low input conditions. So yeah, right now for that reason, as I'm seeing not enough vigor in my maxima, yeah, I'm introducing new genetics right now, which is not
Mm.
the case for Moshada.
Yeah.
Moshada is fitting the bill properly for a few years.
How do you see Maxa and Moshada complementing each other in the long run? Do they serve slightly different roles in your system?
No, I treat them the same way. I plant them the same way. It's just two species. I know I have two populations growing side by side, and that's it.
Hmm.
Then I tend to prefer Moshara for the taste, but that's it.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
it.
Now, I'm
Yeah.
curious how what forms of selection you're applying to this population as you're breeding
Yeah.
and developing it. Like, what stages
Yeah.
do you cull or like positively reward the plants that are giving you what you want?
Yeah. Okay. That's simple. It's multiple selections in just 1 year. So I'll give you an example. For example, this year my maxima um, population was about 240 plants, and for each final plant, I did direct sowing. So there's no transplant involved. I
Hmm.
did direct sowing in my low pH soil. It's about 5 pH,
Hmm.
and for each plant, I sowed about from 10 to 20 seeds, and like 3 to 4 weeks afterwards, I come back in the field and I just leave one plant. I look for the most vigorous one of those.
Hmm.
So that's the first step of selection. And then at the end of the year, I'm counting per plant how many fruits I have. I'm marking the yields. Then I put all my harvests on shelves for long storage. And there's another level of selection which happen automatically.
Hmm.
If they don't go up to, I mean, if they collapse between harvest, which in my place is like end of September, October, if they collapse between September and January, they are gone. I don't save the seeds. And then I eventually do my last selection, which is taste selection, which I do just I choose a particular day, and I open all my squash at once, and I'm looking for flavors. and I rank the squashes like from average taste to excellent taste.
Hmm.
And then I sort the seeds by those category accordingly to those categories. And so I have strategical choices which are possible for next year. Will I keep some which are just average, or will I just keep the excellent? So that's every year it's the same questions arising. Yeah,
Interesting.
it's a progressive thing because after 2 years of wide mixes with no selections, I started selecting, and so after the first year of real selection last year in 2024, sorry, uh, I just got rid of those which I were average to me, and I just kept those which were good to excellent qualities. Now this year, I'm just going to only those which are excellent to me. So
Mm.
I'm trying to make progress that way. Uh, on squash, it's kind of easy. I think like I'm doing real progresses, and the yield assessment of this year will tell too. On things like melons and watermelons, it's kind of more complicated. I mean, uh, I did the same sorting of taste last year, so average taste, good taste, excellent taste, and as this year I was resowing the same so-called average, good, and excellent tastes in on different plots in my fields.
Mm.
I ended up identifying that the I could see the same trend in every plot, meaning the
Ah,
average melons of last year were as good or as bad as the excellent of last year. So meaning, there's a problem. There's a problem. So my understanding of that is that I need more objective criteria of selection. The first is even before taste selection, it's the harvest criteria.
yeah.
Because, for example, with melons, you get melons that you would harvest at full sleep, others which are at half slip, and others at no slip. So there are different indicators of
Of
harvest.
ripeness, yeah. Yeah, I wondered
Yeah,
about that with the
and so
melons. Like, so much comes down to the timing of picking the fruit, and like even
yeah,
like the
exactly.
amount of sunlight in the like 4 days leading up to ripeness.
Yeah, if you consider your population, it will have the same amount of sun. So, from a selection perspective, on one place in 1 year, it's no big problem. But the problem with is more with the ripeness criteria. So, I decided to go only with full slip melons from this year on, because otherwise I had results which were not consistent enough. So
Mm.
yeah, from next year on, it's full flip melon, meaning those tend to be also the earliest ones, so that's good for me.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I'm go harvesting all at full flip, and that will give the consistency of the harvest too. So yeah,
I'm
that's
curious
very important.
how you manage individual plant-based selection in a vining crop like cucurbits, particularly
Yeah,
Maximus and moschata sometimes spread, and
sure,
all the plants end up
sure.
tangled among each other. Do you do the very
Yeah.
laborious job of like managing the vines to stop the plants getting all mixed up?
Okay. Last year it was intertwined very much, so it was not possible to assess the yield. I could do only early vigor selection and taste selection at the end of the season per
Mhm.
fruit. But so I decided last winter that I would go for changing my spacings to be able to assess individually the yields of the plants,
Mm.
and to assess also the vigor. So, which led me to space them of, let's say, like it's 2 meters. There are space every 4 square meters. I don't know if you're familiar with meters,
Yeah, yeah,
but
Australia's
the
metric.
spacings are okay.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah.
So the spacings are huge or big for Maxima or Moshara. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I give more spaces for each plant, and I interplant not to lose space with other projects like kiwano,
Hmm.
like melons. Or I mean, I get two categories of plants when I look at my setup, my design in the field. I got the big plants, so Maxima, Moshara, and Pepo, and I got the small plants. So it's tomatoes, watermelons, melons, kiwano. Yeah, that's it. So I interplant my big ones with two smaller ones
Now,
on each row. Yeah.
we have to talk about kiwano because this is such an unusual plant, and I never would have thought it would be. Actually, no, I think I can understand why it might be acceptable or popular in France. Tell people more about this plant because I've grown it before and I've been both impressed and terrified by it at different times in the process.
Okay, it's I don't know if it's very popular in France. I mean, I may be a bit a nerd about this, but yeah, some people like it, some don't.
Hmm.
That's the first thing. It's kind of a very minor crop. There's very few varieties that you can buy I mean, very few seed varieties you can buy on the market. So I've just been able to assemble a mix of three varieties to start with.
Hmm.
So
You have to
the
tell people,
major,
like, describe what it is because
yeah.
a lot of people would have never
Oh
heard of
yeah.
it before.
Okay, kiwano originates from Africa. Uh, it's like an oval balloon which starts green and end up being orange, but most people call it like a dinosaur egg. So
Hmm.
it has many spines on it in all direction, and so while maturing, the flesh is sorry the skin color is becomes yellow orange, but when you open it, it's like fluo green. It's super green inside. It's jelly. It's jelly too. It has many seeds, so you don't know what you're gonna taste when you start tasting it. That's nice. I like it. I like it. To me, it's like, okay, in my place, we cannot grow oranges, so we have to buy some oranges which are coming from Spain or Morocco.
Hmm.
And so to me, it was like, okay, because it's kind of long storage. I said, okay, maybe I can do my vitamin C
Hmm.
on my place, so I can have my fruit for the winter. So that's how I got started. Mm.
Yeah, the storage properties of it for a plant that's it's somewhat sweet and very juicy. And yeah, the fruit store for months, even in my subtropical conditions. One thing that's worth pointing out too is that it's extremely drought tolerant. It probably has one of the strongest root
Yeah.
systems of any cucurbit that I've ever grown. But the spines on the plant, like the fruit's a bit spiny, but the plants themselves, if you ever have to pull or move the vines, they're just like fiberglass. They're evil.
That's for sure.
Have you found
Yeah,
any of
very dry.
the red or the white colored fruiting varieties I've seen in
Oh,
circulation
yeah,
overseas?
yeah. I bought some white seeded. No, sorry, not white seeded, but white skin kiwanos. So yeah, they are in my Grex, my mix. I
Mm.
call that Grex, like Joseph does, Joseph
Yep.
Loftus. Yeah,
Are they very
but yeah,
different
yeah. I got
in
some.
any of the other traits, or is it just the color of the skin?
It's just the color of the skin.
Okay.
That's why I mean, if not for ornamental purposes, people should not should concentrate on bringing in their garden some diversity. But you know, the white and the yellows have the same type of flesh. The it's kind of acidic or sour.
Mm.
We want, I want, and other farmers in my network want to raise the bricks level. So bricks meaning sugar.
Hmm.
So the sugar level are the best are over about 6%. So we want to try raising that level to 10 would be nice.
Hmm.
Like for example, watermelon, the nice watermelons are around 12. Melons are from 10 to 15. So it's kind of a mildly sweet fruit right now, and we would like to try get it to
Interesting.
a higher level.
You
So
might be
this,
interested.
yeah,
I've seen an old research paper that kiwano can be crossed with the Dosakai melon, Cucumis mellow. Have you seen Dosakai melon? It's an Indian like ancestral form of melon that has non-sweet fruit but extreme vigor. And for some reason, you can cross it with
okay,
kiwano. So it could be useful
super
in that.
interesting.
Yeah, it just could add a whole lot of
Hmm.
extra genetic diversity that might yeah, it might unsettle the Kiwano genetics enough that you can start getting more variation in it.
Yeah, very interesting. Uh, this Dosaka melon may be in my Grex of melons, which is very wide.
Hmm.
That's possible. I mean, I've encountered this name before. That's
Mm,
interesting. Thank you.
mm, mm. Now let me think. So do you want to tell us a bit about what you're doing? Oh, no, before we move on from pumpkins, I wanted to ask, are you breeding for edible seed quality as well as flesh quality?
No, not really. Not yet. I'm actually staying in the US for the first time right now. Actually,
Hmm.
I've been trying for the first time roasted seeds of squash
Hmm.
today.
Hmm.
So that's just a new idea popping up in my plans. Just to let you know, I've been trying F1 hybrid bred by Brent Loy, the late Brent Loy from UNH University, so New
Hmm.
Hampshire University. Is bred one cucurbita pipo with hull-less seeds.
Hmm.
And so when I go back to my place in France, I will open those pumpkins and just to see how tasty they are. And I will go through a dehybridization process just to keep the hull-less trait in that crop. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, even for the hulled varieties of the seeds, with
Uh-huh.
a bit of selection, particularly among the moschatas, there's some strains that are quite uh, nice to eat when they're hulled and toasted. Seminole,
Okay.
for me, is probably the best variety, and it has weird vigor. It's probably one of the most
Okay.
ancestral of the moschatas.
What's the name again? Sorry.
Seminole pumpkin.
Seminole. Okay, okay. I got it in my Grex, meaning it's been crossed with some of the seeds of my Moshara. Okay.
Mm. Mm,
Uh,
mm. Anyway, just some thoughts that I
I'll
wanted to
try.
ask about. But yeah, tell me more about your watermelon and your melon breeding work.
Okay. It's okay. I started also in 2021 gathering like something like 40 varieties of watermelons. By then, my ex-girlfriend was in love with watermelons. So I had to do something with it. So yeah, that's how I got started. Yeah, I've been more successful with watermelons than with melons.
Mm,
The main reason being because I wanted to get the most diversity possible. I was reading by then the book Evolutionary Plant Breeding of Salvatore Ceccarelli, who is a
hmm.
breeder in the Middle East.
Mm,
And he was expressing that for ecologists, the views regarding the assembling, the mixing of varieties is the more diverse you mix it from the start, the best, the more changes you will see in your population, you will achieve more what was not possible before. I'll just give you an example.
mm,
For example, I would like my crops to grow just past a cover crop. So meaning if I crush my cover crop, I want to sow them directly and I want them to grow vigorously.
yeah.
But the problem is like if I don't till my soil, if I just crush my cover crop, there is not enough nutrients frequently in the soil for my crops to start vigorously.
Mm,
So, okay, according to these lines of thoughts, uh, I wanted to have the maximum diversity possible. For watermelons, it ended up being a success in the sense of, okay, watermelon species is kind of narrow comparatively to melons,
mm,
and all the watermelons, except qualities like colors. Okay, you get some red, you get some yellow, you get some pink, etc. But okay, the taste is about the same. So I ended up having kind of a success with watermelons. I'm still selecting on vigor. The taste is relatively good. It's improving. But relatively to melons, melons being a genome which is much wider than watermelons, I
mm,
ended up crossing different kinds of melons. Some being very crunchy, some being having some being very sweet, some being less sweet. Very distinctive properties. So that's a bit of a miss. Also, I've been crossing melons which were to be harvested at full slip, others at no slip,
Hmm.
half slip. So that's a bit of a miss right now. So from next year on, I need to focus more on objective criteria, and so it's going to be full slip only from next year on, for example.
Have you worked on the aromaticity, like the aroma, the fragrance of the melons? Because that's such an interesting trait that's been lost in many modern cultivars. And Joseph Lofthouse kind of lit the torches
Yeah.
to show the way on that front.
Not yet on melons, but it's what I envision for next year on. As soon as I get the consistency in the full slip criteria
Hmm.
harvest indicator, I'm gonna do two additional steps in selection. The first will be a minimum threshold in bricks level, so in sugar level. So I want minimum 10%, 10 bricks. And then I will look so more subjectively, but with my taste, my own mouth, let's say. I will look for complex um, aromas, and that kind of stuff. Um, Also because as I'm looking for vigor, all I've been listening to over the past years is most notably by James White, specialist of the rhizophagy cycle, is that complex aromas are just developing only if the plants are um, share something special, let's say, with the soil, meaning there are complex interactions with
Ah,
the soil, mushrooms, bacteria. So the you let's say it in another way, you won't have complex aromas, polyphenols, tannins, etc. You won't have complex aromas if your plant is not very adapted to your place. Meaning if your plant is not able to interact deeply, profoundly with your soil, you won't get the complex aromas. Which in sense of selecting for adaptation and taste makes things simple
they go hand in hand.
eventually.
I wonder if it's not just a melon phenomenon, that it's actually all crops that there's that complex chemistry coming from the soil microbiology. Interesting.
Uh, James White talks about it like as something common to all species.
Yeah, yeah,
And the example,
it makes
notably,
sense.
yeah, yeah, there's been a couple exchanges in the podcast with John Kemp, where they go on and on about the properties of the instance microbial relationship between plants and microbiology. Mm.
It's interesting because
And that's
a lot
yeah,
of plant secondary metabolites like medicines
yeah,
and toxins and stuff don't actually come from the plant genome. They come from microbial
uh-huh.
symbionts that live in the tissues. Taxol, the U cancer treatment, is a really famous example of this. They finally figured out it's coming from a fungus that lives inside the tree. But to extend that to all the microbes that live like on the surface of the root mass and are exchanging material with the plant constantly. That's such a fascinating idea. Interesting. Oh,
And
I meant to
you
ask
you
too.
you
Oh no, you go. Sorry.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, just to add something to that, you could refer to the plant health pyramid of John Kemp, which with before even beforehand discussing with James White, outlined that okay, to achieve the highest level of plant health, meaning you got the secondary metabolites, you got everything to mitigate pest pressure, etc. You will need those microbial collaboration.
Yeah.
So you should refer to the plant health pyramid. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I love John Kemp's work. I'll have to try and get him on the show one day, or try and get on his show. He's a little bit hard to track down. I wanted to ask too if
Sure.
you've done any work with citron watermelons, the highly storable, extremely vigorous, non-sweet ancestors of sweet watermelons.
So let's say I've grown one variety one year in 2021
Mm.
on the side of my plots, and so it yielded incredibly, like 110 kilos on 6 plants over like 10 square meters. It was crazy, and
Yeah.
and those watermelons just lasted forever. Like I had snow, I had some frost, and they were still sitting on my deck outside in January. Or so my January must be your July, I guess. But
Yeah, yeah,
so yeah. So but the taste was like okay, bland.
yeah,
So I didn't
yeah.
do anything about it.
Yeah, I've seen some studies where they've crossed sweet watermelons with the citrons, but it's a really
Yeah.
long and complex process to get back to the sweet phenotype. I think it's like recessive with a couple of genes, so it's not straightforward
Uh-huh.
to get that vigor across. I mean, there's some people who do like grafting from those kind of rootstocks. So you could use a citron as the rootstock and then try and put sweet watermelons on top, but it's a very fiddly process to do all of that seedling grafting.
I, I know that there's one variety from Siberia which has been bred and which is the result of a cross between a citron melon and a watermelon.
Hmm.
Its name is Kholodok or Holodok, which Kholodok.
Mm.
Hard to find, but you can find it on some website. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think I saw it was the Soviets that were trying to do that
Yeah.
wide cross to the ancestor. Yeah,
Mm.
it's a very intriguing plant. Um, yeah, it's hopefully someone out there will try to do it again in the modern Western world and crack it because there's a lot of
Sure.
potential there. When you see how these plants can grow, you realize how much has been lost by bottlenecking through the sweet mutation.
I wonder also if it's not the fact that it's not because of the creation of sugar molecules that our modern watermelon varieties yield so low comparatively to those. I just wonder. I mean, it's just a wonder. I don't know, but
Yeah,
because
there's that's why I love this is what the podcast is. If you're out there and you're interested in watermelons and they grow well for you, somebody has to do this work of mixing citron into sweet watermelon, or even finding out a better way of using citrons in Western food culture because they have a lot of potential. Like in my part of the world, they traditionally were used as a base for jam because they're just loaded with pectin. But yeah, I don't eat much jam, so it's not that useful for me. Now, we should talk about winter cereals. Now, you do some breeding of staple crops, some grains. So, do you want to tell me what you're working on that front?
I've just been doing trials of varieties that I got. I took from seed banks. I did that in winter 2022-23 and 23-24.
Hmm.
So it was just 2 year trial. Okay, that was not for baking. That was not for doing food with it. It was more of two trials to see if I could find some varieties which would be more adapted to my cover crops. I do cover cropping in between my summer crops. Sorry,
Uh-huh,
so in
uh-huh.
between my squash. Let's you can imagine that. Okay, I got a winter cover crop which is based on rye, oats, veg, faba beans, and peas. And yeah, I was looking for more vigor. I was looking for more tailoring in the varieties,
Hmm.
and so that's how I went to seed banks asking for varieties that could be more vigorous than what was on the market.
Are
So
you
I've
looking
tried.
for that? It sounds like you're doing crimping before you do your summer planting of the crop. Is that another trait that you're trying to
Yeah.
select
it-
for?
oh yeah. I don't know. Okay, crimping. That's the word I was looking for a couple of minutes ago.
Mm.
Uh, the trait associated to crimping is early flowering, because in my method, which is inspired by a friend of mine, which is inspired by Masanobu Fukuoka,
Hmm.
uh, is the sooner you can crimp your cover crop, the sooner you can plant your summer crop.
Yeah.
So to crimp your cover crop, you need one thing. You need to those that cover crop to be at flowering stage. Otherwise, it will either grow back or be back on its feet, let's say, or it will tiller again from the roots, from the rooting system. So you want your crop, you want your cereals to be at flowering stage, and then if you crimp it, if you crush it at flowering stage, it won't regrow. It will just die where yeah, it just die on, it will die.
Interesting. And
Uh,
this is something I've
yeah.
been telling people as well. The potential for breeding and selection of support species rather than production
Hmm.
species, I think is a huge
Hmm.
overlooked area that yeah, particularly in like the tropics, there's all these biomass species that are just kind of used opportunistically. You just kind of pick the best one that you can find that already exists that's reasonably easy to manage. But breeding specifically for better management of that biomass has enormous potential. And annuals, I think, have potential as well for cover cropping.
Sure, sure, sure. And even, for example, to follow on that, within my Moshara or Maxima with my squash patches, okay, I got tomatoes, I got melons, I got kiwanos, but I also sow some amaranths or let's say Shia
Hmm.
from notably from Bolivia, which brings cover and some shade to my crops in the summer season,
Mm.
and
Mm.
buckwheat too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. So do you have any plans to ever breed those winter cereals for production, or is it you've got a very narrow focus on just using them as cover cropping?
Oh yeah, I've had a very narrow focus on it,
Hmm.
and I've lost track with that. I just went back to some more easy easy stuff. Like now I'm just buying my cereal from a seller, and
Hmm.
also it's also due to last year in October, when I was supposed to sow my cover crops and do a new trial year. I was very busy organizing the conferences in which were held in Antibes, and where like 400 people from all over the world were gathering for a farmer seeds conference.
Hmm.
So yeah, I could not do a new round of serial trial. Yeah.
Mm. Well, I mean that's probably a question that's worth investigating. How do you figure out like what the limits are of like how many different crops and selections you can juggle? Have you like previously bitten off more than you could chew and had too many projects on the go
Yeah,
and decided
sure,
to step back
sure.
and specialize?
Thanks for asking. Yeah. Okay. When I introduce myself, I say now that I'm a cucurbit breeder, and I focus mostly on Moshara, Maxima, watermelons, and melons. I mean, since 2021, I've been creating as many grexes, as many mixes as I could. So from parsnip to turnips to to brassicas, I've been creating carrots. But eventually, what my passion was leading me towards was cucurbits. And so, due to life circumstances, I've had to abandon some projects. And now that I have a network surrounding me, and a French network, okay, I can relax down on. I don't have to do everything, so I'm concentrating on squash and melons. When others are now in France and in Belgium are concentrating on carrot grexes, and they do it much better than I do,
Yeah.
just because they are passionate about it. I was not passionate about it, so I'm very passionate about squash for forever, I'd say.
Mm.
They are passionate about carrots, so I let them do their stuff, and they just sent me their seeds, and I send them mine, and that's fine.
Did that decision to focus on cucurbits partly depend on how they responded to your growing area, like your soil and your climate just are particularly suited to them?
Um, if it had been a total failure, I would not have concentrated on them. But I think it's more my inner passion, it's more my inner personality that led me to concentrate on what I loved already. Yeah.
I'm curious where that love comes from. Do you have like a core
Oh,
memory that goes
oh yeah.
back to like childhood of a particular cucurbit speaking to you?
Okay. Before something like before 23 or 24 years old, I I didn't know anything about plants actually, even if I'm from a farming family, my
Mhm.
grandfathers being farmers. But I opened a catalog of the main organic seed producer of France in 2004, sorry. And just I fell in love with crops uh, grown by the Native Americans, the
Mhm.
Hopi culture. So that was the squash, that was the amaranth, all those crops just like, oh, that's, I love them. And behind that is my personal move towards finding a nice way to live on that planet. I was finding tracks of people able to, by living on the land and by loving the land, making emerge some new shapes, new flavors, new textures, new colors. And so, yeah, that's from that moment on, I was, oh, I love that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Before we move on to talking about how you lower inputs, do you have any other crops that you have been working on through the years?
I got some marginal projects like cucumber melon, which is in this melon family
Hmm.
species, Cucumis mellow, but it's varieties which have been bred for eating when unripe. So as a cucumber,
Oh, that's like the Armenian cucumber, I think is the name in the
exactly.
West. Yes.
You,
What?
you
How
got
do they
you got it.
behave?
Oh, they behave like a melon,
Mm.
like a normal melon plant. But the only thing which makes a difference comparatively to Cucumis sativus, so cucumber, is that they never get bitter.
Hmm.
Um, they're as subject to pest pressure as the other varieties in Cucumis mellow, so the usual melon, the sweet melons. So
Hmm.
in my place, for example, it's difficult for them to grow for the entire seasons. That they get bitten badly by blight or mildew. I can't tell in English what's the name for it, but
Oh yes, yeah, yeah.
uh,
Mildew, white. What is it?
oidium
Downy
maybe.
mildew, the white mildew that you get on the leaves.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
it. So they behave like a usual melon, and just you harvest those fruit immature and you use them as cucumber. They are
Mhm.
more crunchy. I prefer their texture. So I got a simple mix of a couple varieties, which are okay, Armenian cucumbers, but also carosellos and tortareros, which are coming from Italy
Mhm.
originally. That's where they've been bred for that purpose. Mm.
Interesting. Are there any cucurbits you don't like?
Hmm. I'm not too into cucumber, say, so Cucumis sativus. I'm
Hmm.
not particularly interested in that. Uh, I like sweetness, so melons, watermelons, and I like things that I can store, and I like the aromas of squash usually. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
my most, you
I've
know.
recently fallen in love with wax melons because of their incredible storage properties, but I don't know if the flavor of them has ever appealed to you. Have you tried them before?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, when I discovered Joseph Lofthouse a couple of years ago, I went in catalogs looking for everything that could store. So I've discovered waxmelon, and I've discovered also, if I'm right, it's Benincasa ispida,
Hmm.
the Latin name of this variety. Yeah,
Hmm. Yes, yeah, we're on the
yeah.
same page.
Okay, and I went also with Cucurbita fisifolia,
Hmm.
which is another funny, called by some Siam gourd. And so I have both still growing in my gardens, but it's very marginal project, and I don't know what to do with wax gourd. Oh, wax melon.
Mm.
How do,
I've
how
found
do
the
you call
flesh
it?
is yeah, a wax melon, wax gourd, or winter melon sometimes. It's
Uh,
got a lot of common names, but I've found the flesh to be incredibly useful for adding to just soups and stews. It's neutral,
okay.
it holds its form, it's very tender, and it just kind of adds that kind of soluble fiber bulk to dishes that I think is really useful. And it's so storable. So when we have a 6 month drought here,
Uh-huh.
we don't get cold winters, but we do often get droughts. and I don't irrigate,
Uh-huh.
so you get into
Uh-huh.
a few months where there's a very small amount of like fresh vegetable material that's good for eating, and the winter melons, they're just constantly available.
Okay.
Hmm.
And did you manage to do something with Cucurbita fusifolia also? Because
It gets
I would
hit.
suspect it's not. Yeah.
It grows very well here, but we've got a local fruit fly pest that absolutely destroys it and
Uh,
Cucurbita pepo. So I almost never get a harvest out of them. So I've pretty much given up on them.
okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm. I saw a note that you've done a bit of work with chestnut, but maybe that's a kind of slow project that's happening in the background.
Oh, no, no, not with chestnut. No, no,
Okay, okay.
no, no, no.
I've been misled. I'll blame it on an LLM hallucination. We can use that these days. Now, we should spend some time talking
I
about
mean,
how. Oh,
yeah,
no.
I can just say that I've been living during 10 years in a place where chestnut were grown, and that's been a side passion from 24 to 2014. But that's it.
Okay, okay, okay.
That's it.
So yeah, we should talk about how you like grow plants on this scale, and if you do anything with lowering the inputs, and like if that's part of your selection criteria for finding varieties that don't need a lot of uh, extra support.
Okay. Mm, I tend to go with the vision of agriculture that would be low input in essence, but with intelligent, smart inputs, if we
Hmm.
could. So, and I live where I live, so my soil is like granite, meaning it's acidic, it's sandy, it doesn't hold water.
Hmm.
Uh, During the summer, it's drying, so the soil is drying. I can irrigate because I get a pond just nearby. But the only input I've added to my land is my cover crops. Yeah, I've just added some to balance the pH last year, some chalk, I guess.
Hmm.
I'm just wondering how we say in English, but I guess
Hmm.
chalk.
Yeah, no, that's correct.
And that's it. That's it. Yeah, that's it. I'm just now. So yeah, my vision is if I had manure, if my neighbor had manure, I would use some manure. I would not over manure, but I would manure a bit. But now I'm mostly focusing on getting an understanding, sorry, of microbial coating I could put on my seeds,
Mm.
like some products can. And I would not want to create a selection bias. I would like to, I would like to use some things that a farmer could use. And there are some microbial inoculants that seems relevant to me, and especially those that you can do on farm. So I'm thinking around the lines of lombric compost or worm compost, that kind of thing, and maybe some more specialized product, like one is in the US, sold by John Kempf Enterprise, whatever. And yeah, I would like to try to see if with some bio coating I could teach my plants to incorporate some new endophytes, some new partners, some new friends, microbial friends. So yeah, that may be on my next year's table
Have you taken any
trials.
inspiration from indigenous cultivation methods for cucurbits to change your management style?
No, but still on the same path of the microbial inoculants.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been doing a presentation in last August to agronomists, speaking specifically about Iroquois corn medicine 2.0.
Hmm.
So questioning the use of the new of microbial inoculants, but notably getting back to what the Iroquois Native Americans were doing, which was simply gathering the roots of the best growing plants, not from the species you want to grow, but gathering the roots of the plants which are very growing exceptionally in your land, putting them in some water at mildly hot temperature, maybe 50 degrees Celsius maximum, and then pre-germinate your seeds in that water. That to bring some microbial collaborators to your plants when they start growing in that precise land. So I'm getting inspired finally by Native Americans.
That is such an interesting thing to try, and I'm so keen to see your results from that. But with cucurbits, like we were talking about, there's all of these highly vigorous relatives and ancestors of our modern crops that seem to have lost something along the way in their growth potential, and it might be microbial. And yeah, like you could have jam melon roots that you pre-germinate watermelon seeds in the presence of to see if you can get a microbial transfer. I so strongly encourage people to do things like this. Yeah, keep doing it. Keep doing it. I can't wait to hear what you find out from that.
Yeah,
I also. Oh, sorry. You go. You go.
Yeah. Just on that note, when asked by John Kemp, James Wright, how to say that, to translocate microbial collaborators from wild relatives of some species to the domesticated, James White replies, okay, the first thing you should do to try to translocate the endophytes is to grow side by side your wild relative with your roots have to be intertwined, and you have to sprout them together, you have to grow them together, and then if you don't want the pollen, if you don't want some the bitterness of the toxicity of your wild relative, you just have to cut it before flowering.
Yeah.
And that's the easiest way to transfer microbiology. It's what he's saying.
Yeah, yeah. I would imagine as well that if you removed most of the top growth of the wild ancestor, and you had like a crop like germinated and growing alongside that root system as it's stressed and dying and like shifting resources to the microbial community, that could really work. I also wondered as well, I know a lot of the indigenous people used mounding in their cultivation practices, and cucurbits can be extremely large plants. I wonder if that offers opportunities to, if you are going to use amendments, they can just go at the very base of the plant and you don't have to spread it, over the entire growing area. Have you used any techniques like that?
No, not yet. Not yet. Yeah, not yet. I've been late in season this year because my harvest has been done like a month ago. I've been concentrating on the health of the plants late in season, and particularly what kept my attention was the capacity to reroot, which is very spectacular, at least in my place, in Moschara plants, and which is very less appearing in maxima. So from next year on, I will be looking for more vigor in sense of rerouting of the plants, because it seems like the plant is creating new roots, and so new center of vigor in the plants on its way. Yeah, but no, I've not tried. What? Sorry, I didn't get the word exactly.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. No. I also wondered, with your winter cover cropping as probably a weed and a fertility management system, how much of an impact do you think that is happening? Have you done experiments where you've tried smaller patches without the winter cover crops and compared the effect?
No, that's my standard method, and I've never tried to do anything without. That's really my practice. No, I did not. I did not do any control group or without.
Do you find you have to do much irrigation through the summer, or is your soil? It sounds like it's very sandy, but often that allows roots to get deep enough, so you may have a water table further down that the crop is tapping into.
No, there was no clay under the sand, so just the water is drained down, and then the plants just are suffering from heat and drought. So I have to irrigate, but it doesn't solve all because I don't have enough water to irrigate everything. So I've been thinking very much in terms of trying to do some earlier sowing. In my place, the soil dries down from the 15th or around the 15th of June or 15th of July, depending on the years. And I can sow my seeds usually around the 15th of May. I mean, it's said that, okay, you can sow your seeds from the 15th of May, and that's going to be okay for squash and melons, watermelons. But I was walking nearby a field nearby my place, I saw corn which was already like 20 centimeters, 40 centimeters high on around the 10th of May. And I said to me, okay, cucurbits and corns come from the same regions or approximately. There's no reason why I could not sow my cucurbits around the 15th of April, like the corn is sown. So I will do some more cold soil emergence trial and selection from next year on. That's the way forward. And why I'm saying that is relative to drought. If I get plants which are sufficiently rooted in a more biologically active soil, so let's say growing from the 15th of April to solstice, so 20th of June. So having bigger plants, bigger leaves, bigger roots, I think they could handle and better the drought and have bigger yields. So that's one of my main ways forward in selection. Yeah.
And that ability to germinate earlier in cooler soil is probably there's some variation in that property in your population that you haven't selected too far by other traits.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I just don't know yet how it will turn. But yeah.
Now, do you have to do much weeding around the cover cropping system, or does it handle most of that problem for you? Like, do you have to do spot weeding like partway through the summer season?
I have to. Last year, because I didn't sow, I haven't sown cover crop in the autumn, so in autumn 2024, I had to till the land again in April, beginning of April, meaning there was no cover crop, and I was like, it was just like bare ground. So I had the weeding of the spontaneous weeds showing up throughout the entire summer to do. But if I had my cover crop standing by then, I would have had some weeding throughout the sour crop too, because it doesn't solve everything. No. Yeah, it shades the soil partially to entirely. So that leaves to less room for the weeds, but still you have some handwork to do.
Yeah. I wonder too, since you grow so many cucurbits every summer, how does that influence pest pressure, pest and disease pressure? And is it actually an opportunity to select for resistance that you presumably have fairly healthy populations of cucurbit pests?
Okay, until now I have no problem. I know that, for example, in the US they have huge squash vine borers problems. We don't have any in Europe or in my part of Europe, so that's not a big problem right now. And I'm rather optimistic regarding that right now. I've seen some insects on the side of my moshada patch, but still, it's not a big problem right now for me. I don't see it as a major problem. And I hope. I mean, behind what I'm saying.
What about with the mildew? Is that something that just comes later in the season, but most plants have already cropped by then?
Yeah, the fruits are. For moshada, it's not a problem. For maxima, it's a huge problem. So in maxima, I will select, and I'm already selecting for pest resistance and mildew resistance mainly, which seems to be connected to rerouting capacities and that kind of things. And on moshada, it's less of an issue. I don't see the plant are killed by frost right now. I see much more vigor in moshada than in maxima. Maxima die throughout their growing cycle. Like I saw them around 15th of April. They die around August or September, whereas moshara can go on and on and on. They don't stop.
Interesting. That reminds me, I wanted to ask, have you experimented with any hybridization between Maxima and Moschata? Because I know there's a few
Yeah,
commercially available strains from that parentage, but
yeah,
have you tried or considered doing your own crosses between the species?
yeah, yeah. I suggest everybody tries Tetsukabuto at least once because it's such a high yielder. It's such a good long storage squash. Uh, it can hold forever. Like if you harvest in October, like I do, you can still have them like in the summer, next summer. So yeah. So plus the flavor is exceptional. The texture is perfect. You can do fries. You can do puree for sure, soups. But so yeah, I've been starting some stuff with interspecific hybrids between Moshara and Maxima via Tetsukaburo, and which has been bred originally in Japan. And it's a cross between Delicious, which is a Maxima, and some Futsu Black or related variety from Moshara.
Mm.
And okay, so what I did, I crossed Tetsukaburo and a few others with Maxima on one side and with Moshara on the other side, meaning in two separate fields. In one field, I had my Mosharas plus Tetsukaburo, and on the other field, I had Maximas plus Tetsukaburo, meaning those interspecific hybrids, which were 50-50 Maxima Moshara, ended up being 75% Maxima and 25% Moshara, and reverse for the other.
Yeah, yeah.
Lot.
And did you do that by just hand pollinating, or did you put like just individual hybrid plants in either of those plots?
I did put individual hybrid plants, and I let the bee do what they have to do.
Yeah, very clever.
And now from those offsprings, I will be selecting for long storage, and right now I'm not too intentional about those. I got something like 50 or 100 fruits of those next generation plants, and I'm still not really knowing where this will lead me. I don't know where I'm going with those, but I mean, the flesh quality is amazing, the yield quality is amazing, so yeah, I want to do something with those.
Interesting. I'm so glad I thought to ask that, because yeah, it's something with enormous potential, because Maxima has so many interesting positive qualities, but so many weaknesses as well. And Mostrata is just this huge, massive, complex diversity that can do almost anything you ask, but rarely everything you want. So bringing them together has, I mean, it's already proven with that Japanese cross to have enormous potential. And of all of the crops for doing that kind of controlled wide crossing, cucurbits are probably one of the most approachable for home gardeners. If they do want to do it with a hand pollinating route, it's not too difficult to learn how to pollinate those giant cucurbit flowers.
Totally.
Now, we have to talk culture, because you're doing some really interesting things on this front. Let's finish by talking about the conferences that you've been working with. And first, I just want to get a broad perspective on the French or the European perspective on crop breeding, because I think it's probably, speaking of someone with like a European heritage, that part of the world probably has the deepest agricultural roots. They go way back before industrialization, whereas Australia and America, they're much shallower heritages if you don't look at the indigenous heritage, which is a whole other problem. But yeah, I'm really interested, like, what's it like doing rediscovering landrace crops in Europe, a place that has thousands of years of landrace cropping to kind of refer back to?
That's gonna be an interesting topic. Yeah, I can tell you about from a French and European perspective how it sounds, and from my perspective, which is like I'm like a left winger. alternative lifestyle guy. Okay, so the story would be, I would say it like that. Around 2000, there was those huge GMO, anti-GMO struggles throughout Europe and in particular in France. So the French people refused to have any kind of GMOs in their crops, and that movement was led by organic growers mostly, but also people who were used to do some how to say that, some seed cleaning on farm, and the governments and the EU Commission or the Parliament was willing to not allow it to. That would not be allowed. So there was that kind of coalition of people gathering around. Okay, we should refuse that. But what they created by then is a term, semence paysanne, which means farmer seeds. And those people have been very strong opposing the trend towards more industrialization of crops. And they were trying to protect old varieties, heirlooms. It was said like, okay, our old varieties are quite diverse, but still, of course, they had to comply with what a variety is supposed to be. So meaning distinct, uniform, and stable. So, okay, we are opposing the industrial culture in its own paradigm, like in the paradigm of the varieties, which have to be this, that, and the next. So when I discovered Joseph Loftus in 2021, I felt like, oh my God, I may be the only one in France thinking that maybe our old crops were more diverse than our heirloom seeds, our varieties. And it took like a year or two before it happened that some people, I've been in contact with other people since 2023. And those people were in parallel thinking about that strange notion of variety. And those guys were going in Peru, they were going in Mexico, and they were just like, in those centers of origin, people just don't grow varieties. They grow together many different varieties, and they don't call them varieties. They call them families. They even have, in Peru, they even have a name for that. They call them chacru, meaning a quality grown together, and in which, in the same field, you will have like 70 different kinds of potatoes, but they are all part of the same family. So just to wrap up and to get back to the point. Last year, or like a month ago, I was to Luxembourg for the main gathering of all the European seed networks, and we are making our way through the mindsets of the people, through the paradigm of okay, we have to oppose the industrialization of agriculture. Now the people are getting that, okay, probably the crops of our grandfathers and mothers were much more diverse, and that's what give the more reliability and etc. And we're finding testimonies from all around the planet. So the mindsets are changing right now after last year's conference in Antibes and this last conference in Luxembourg. And now all the seed networks in Europe are just looking towards more land racing, more diversified stuff. So the change is happening right now, at least in the organic movement. People are getting, okay, if we just grow clones, we can't have adaptability. And that's making its way.
That's something people, it made perfect sense when I found out what are called heirloom crops are really kind of, they're maybe 100 years old. Agriculture had already mostly industrialized a century ago. This idea that, the early 1900s wasn't, it was some pre-industrial, like, it wasn't, it was already very much transformed. And you have to go so much further back and the records and the cultural memory from that time is so faded compared to like just the 100-year version of history. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'm curious, has there been much attempt to preserve that pre-industrial agriculture in Europe? Like I looked at Japan, which has been really like they industrialized so rapidly and so recently that they've managed to like hang on to a lot of their crafts and culture from before that transformation. But I'm wondering if Europe, maybe it happened further back and more gradually, like through the 1800s, I think is where most of the change happened, and maybe they didn't realize what they were losing at the time, and more of it's been lost.
I would say that we may have the biggest or comparable to USA's the biggest number of seed sellers in organic agriculture,
Hmm.
and it's quite diverse. So people are still doing some work, but they're all doing the work in the paradigm of pure varieties,
Mm,
if
mm.
not F1 hybrids. So I think the memory's been lost, but we're making a new. Yeah, we're talking about those memories which have been lost, and it's finding its way. We have land races stored in gene banks, but I think yeah, their properties were not consciously seen by anybody, even in organic agriculture recently,
Yeah, yeah.
except for cereals, because in you have to separate the market gardening scene from the cereal scene, because many people in Europe have been doing some growing diversified mixes since around 2000,
Mm.
and so they are more up to date with that. And also, I just want to add something. It's the term, at least for France, the term variety has been coined by the industry and put into has been making its way into law around 1930, and it's been found by a French historian called Christophe Bonneuil. So the term variety itself says something about this new mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's such a fascinating history, and it's difficult to. There's glimpses of the transformation in the records, but it's not as well documented as like wars and politics and uh,
Uh-huh.
culture. One thing I did want to ask too, has the I think the more sophisticated food culture in Europe made this rebirth of landrace agriculture easier? I think in like America and Australia, our food culture is we don't have as sophisticated a demand for quality, and yeah, we're not as concerned about what we're eating. Do you have a take on that?
I don't have a precise take on that. I'm struggling with my friends who are market gardener. They are struggling for their life to make a living first of all. So I don't have many hopes right now
Mm.
for a real renewal of the seed scene, let's say. But yeah, there's already a change in the mindsets of the people in the main networks in Europe, and progressively we still have to. I mean, to me, the limiting factor of what we're talking about is to prove what we're talking about. In a sense, okay, we have to create land races which are really adaptable to our friends market gardeners. It's my take on that, and we have to make sure they can make a living out of it. So meaning, okay, you're gonna sell some more diversified stuff on your where you want to sell your stuff, and we have to help them growing in maturity regarding that. If they all sell butternut for ages and they will go to some more diversified stuff, we need to help them during the process, and we need there's a missing link still.
Yeah, yeah, and
We're a couple.
those new landrace populations they need to have an advantage both in the cultivation and in the marketing to the consumers. People
Exactly.
have to want to
Yeah.
buy those different crops.
That, on that, we've been making some progresses this year and experiments too. as some of my friends, market gardener, have been using some of my seeds in the northwest of France, in Jura and Besançon, and they had quite a success with their clients. Those clients are like CSAs, they call that in agriculture, community supported agriculture. I don't know if it's the same in Australia.
Yeah, it's the same, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so they have customers which are accustomed to to them, meaning they are not captive. But when they go to their market gardeners, they can have a discussion with their market gardeners. So that's helped a lot with the sellings, just selling the stuff. For example, watermelons. I had friends selling some watermelons in Haute-Saône, and it was a huge success. After he told his clients that they could be diversified, you could have one wood could be pink, another yellow, another green, but overall it would be good. The people were happy to participate, and the taste selection which were made there were good too. So now the people are getting accustomed to it, and they know, like, now from now on they will be choosing their fruit. It's not just like you're in a pile of all uniform fruit.
Yeah.
Now they're going to choose the fruit that corresponds to their aesthetics. So that's interesting, an interesting move. Yeah, but the flavor has to be there. If the flavor is not there, we can forget about what we're talking right now. Yeah.
I really wonder if fragrant melons could be like an ambassador for this whole movement, that even before you like buy and stick it in your mouth, that the aroma coming off a really fragrant melon hits you from like 20 meters away and kind of draws people into that idea. And it's so different to what people are used to with, you know, cantaloupes that you buy in a supermarket that smell and taste of almost nothing.
Yeah.
I'll let you respond to that. Sorry.
No, just it's the crop with which I have the less success or the most failure. So I don't want to talk too much about melons right now.
It's rare to find someone who does really well with watermelons and melons. They seem to have complementary preferences. So, hopefully you can find a way through with that. I wanted to ask too, like the EU you were mentioning is trying to very strictly regulate which varieties of crops can be sold. Like they have to be named and uniform and established, even if they're heirlooms, and people who try and sell things that don't fit those molds are potentially going to be shut down or limited in their operations. And I wonder if orphan crops offer a kind of way around that. Like if you're selling kiwano seeds, nobody in Brussels is going to even know what a kiwano is. So does that kind of put you off their radar?
I have to say that I don't know specifically for orphan crops. I guess that right now, whereas it was said and some laws were passed to free to get legislation which would be more liberal towards seeds or freer. Actually, there was a new layer added to the mix, which was the phytosanitary passport, explicitly saying that if you're selling on the internet your seeds, you have to comply with the phytosanitary passport, meaning it's only the big ones can pay for the phytosanitary passport. And so right now, I don't know again about the orphan crops, but globally in the EU, it's just a matter of law enforcement already. Laws which were passed just would prohibit anyone from selling seeds without phytosanitary passport. But 90% of the organic sector is selling without. So it's just a matter of I don't know what will happen actually in the future. Nobody knows.
I wondered just generally as well, like how do non-institutional breeders and seed savers in France in particular, how do they form networks and organizations and associations? Like, what is the shared culture? How does that all structured? I'm really curious about this question.
Yep. Okay, there's one major network which has been formed in 2003, which is called in French Réseau Semences Paysannes, meaning the networks of farmer seeds network. And it's a movement which was, first of all, opposing the industrial sector and creating a scene of organic seeds, seed suppliers, and also to create a more knowledgeable culture, to go out of those years of, okay, you get just one guy in West France and one guy in the southeast. They were not communicating, so they were trying to gather people around the seed as something which was intrinsically political, in the sense of opposing just industrialization. So that's the story. That's the main network. It's now 20 years old, and as there was a lot of people gathering in from 2003 to 2013, and now until last year, I guess, it's been like running off of its energy. People were no longer that interested, or progressively were getting less and less and less interested in the seed movement in general. And so there's some changes right now. I hope for the best for the future, but okay, we're not in the best years of the seed movement.
Do you think that,
for example, just just to name it, my own group, which is called PEPS, which stands for Pre-Selected Evolutionary Population, which is just a funny name, PEPS group. It's just very marginal. We're not really in the national movement. We're just on the side. We're just not knowing if the national movement will collapse or if it will regrow. If it will regrow, we'll help it. But we prefer doing our things on the side. So we're like a new emerging network in itself. And with people only gathering around evolutionary population, and on a voluntary basis only.
Now I'm really interested in this contrast that the PEPS network sounds like it's more decentralized and less formally structured, and I'm wondering if you've seen like advantages and disadvantages in taking that approach to an organizational structure.
Okay, the main advantage is that it's light. Light in terms of we don't have to maneuver around fundings. We don't have to. We're not that many. We're just like 60 connected to the same platform. We're like something like 10 major people discussing stuff on the forum. We're gonna have a gathering in December, and it's very small. So that's interesting in itself. We are quite diverse network. Get some market gardeners, some breeders, some people selling transplants. The drawbacks or the disadvantage is we don't have any funding. So we have the advantage of we get both sides of the equation. In a sense, okay, now it would be nice. For example, me, in my personal case is just, okay, I've been on a sabbatical year for 2 years now, and now I'm running out of money, so I need to make a living out of something. I don't want to go back to carpentry. What would be best for me, for example, is to find funding for the writing of the book, which would be done over a period of 3 years, in which I would like to help farmers of different regions, places in France, to improve their methodologies of selection, so that we could have, when we edit that, when we publish that book, we could have some results of experiments. I just don't want to theorize for any longer about how adaptation gardening or land racing is good. Now we need to have some proofs of what we're talking about, some proofs of concept, and especially if we want the farmers to join the movement, and by doing so, finding some hopes and finding some new dignity. So we don't have fundings. I hope we'll apply for some. But there are some organizational things which have to be done before that.
Do you have any specific plans about where you could find support to get that book produced and to roll out the that kind of support to farmers who are interested in doing their own breeding and selection?
We got old friends in the national movement, le Réseau Semences Paysannes. We're gonna go, all of us, we're gonna go to the National General Assembly in December too. So we're gonna go gather there, and I think it should be a joint effort between a local seed house, the national network, and maybe our group, which is rather informal right now. But everybody's getting a better understanding of what we are doing, why we are doing it, and so there are many people which would be interested in a book which will like mark a new step in the overall seed movement in general. So how to get out of the variety paradigm.
And it's definitely like I see one of the most fundamental changes when the industrialization of agriculture happened was separating breeding from production. Breeding became this specialized thing that, trained scientists did in small test plots in laboratories. And then, these perfect varieties were like mass distributed to all of the growers who just had to like figure out how to make them produce with all of the chemicals and inputs that they'd been optimized to hoover up. And yeah, reversing that process is, well, I would maybe direct you to the book. I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to look it up for you. But it was an account of the industrialization of agriculture and plant breeding in Germany before the World Wars. And northern Germany, where it's very flat and uniform, centralized their breeding very rapidly and started putting pressure on southern Germany, which is more mountainous and diverse, to kind of try and do the same thing. But the local universities and plant breeding organizations in southern Germany started developing a decentralized model where the farmers were participating in that breeding and selection themselves. And it was working really, really well. But it all got, wiped away during the World Wars, and the thread didn't get picked up again on the other side. I'll see if I can find that book for you. It's quite an obscure one, but it was a really interesting account.
Interesting. Thank you.
Now, tell me more about the conferences that you are helping to organize, because this is a really powerful piece of social technology, and I've been very grateful that you have invited me to present the latest one. So I'll make sure I get this episode out before that conference is on, if people want to take the opportunity to listen in on it.
Yeah, so I'm a minor collaborator to those. And so I'd like, first of all, to say a big thank you to Marcella in Croatia and to Stefan in France for doing most of the organization. And so it's a gathering of people in Europe, and mostly going to seed member. So going to seed being the association around Joseph Lofthouse breeding methods, which is worldwide. And so that's the European members gathering, plus members of the PEPS group, so the French network. And first of all, we wanted, after last year's conference in Antibes in France, where Going to Seed showed up as Going to Seed for the first time in Europe, we wanted to find an occasion to gather again and to discuss things related to seed, to adaptation gardening, landrace gardening. And so that's the overall original idea of that, is gather somewhere and let's talk together. Then during the process of our conception process of the event, Marcela and Stefan were saying, okay, it would be nice sharing with others that could inspire us. And so the likes of the Culinary Breeding Network in the US, Michael Merzurek, a breeder in the US, yourself in Australia, Greg Muller in Australia too. And so there's going to be 6 different conferences or talks or discussions with 6 different speakers, like next Thursday and Friday, I guess.
Excellent.
And we're going to be... We'll be like 15 in Croatia. Plus, we're gonna discuss things with the Croatian people, market gardeners there. That's gonna be a nice event, sure.
Now, I'm really curious just to get your sense about like what is the cultural impact of a conference? Because I've been to a few academic ones previously in my life, but this is going to be one of
Mhm.
the first ones in the adaptation breeding sphere. So you've been to a few of these before, and
Mhm.
what effect do you think it has on the community to
Yeah,
throw a conference and all get together?
thanks for asking. When the community, okay, going to see the community in itself. So when we gather, I'm expecting some more maturity, some more strategical discussion. That's going to be actually the first time we gather to discuss the future of what we're doing. So I can tell, yeah, there was no gathering before that for the going to see the European members. So I expect that we would have more strategical discussion about what we are doing in our places, how could we coordinate. But regarding the conferences in general, and how do we place the land races um, thing, I'm aiming towards gradual change of mindset, if not direct mindset shift. But yeah, our two last presentations last year in Anti, where we had two conferences on landrace gardening, that is going to be on YouTube very shortly. Plus the last one where we've been to Luxembourg, have been proven successful in that sense. When we're talking to networks, it's good to be there. It's good to show up. It's good to propose something with positivity and enthusiasm, because the message is making its way.
Mm.
It's what I can say after a year post Antibes. I just can say that everything's changing now in mindset of people, to my great surprise, because like I said, in 2022 I was feeling like I was the only one in France thinking about around those lines.
Hmm.
And now there's a major shift throughout Europe or within the organic seed movement. So that's very impactful, actually.
Yeah, it's proving to people that there's a critical mass growing, and it's that
Mm,
cross-pollination. It's the same principle, isn't it? You pick up little ideas from other people that can create new combinations.
mhm.
Mm.
And you let the people talk about their own experiences. It was for example, the last the conferences of last year in Antibes, we had the first round with the pioneers, but as I call them, the pioneers. The pioneers were Joseph Losthouse and Salvatore Ceccarelli showing
Hmm.
up in the same conference, talking about their experience as pioneers. And then we had the second round of conferences with like something 200 people were showing up that at that particular moment, and it was experiences from all over the world. So Zambia, uh, England, etc. I mean, there were six different people talking about what they are doing, their successes, their wins, their failures, and that's really impactful on the mind of people. So because behind land racing, right now where we are in the Western civilization, it's the possibility to be creative.
Hmm.
And so if you find people who can talk about what they are doing, it's opened the eyes to so many people with just they're coming to do something with the seed movement, which is very serious about uh, we want to keep pure our varieties. But if people start talking in the practicalities of their creations, like land races and stuff, that opened the mind of so many people without even noticing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now
That's my
we
feeling.
should, we should probably start wrapping up, and I'm having to wrap things up a little.
Sure.
I've got geese that have escaped and are at the back door, asking for their breakfast. So I'm about to get in trouble. The fun question I always ask at the end of the episode: if you could wave a magic wand and create a new organism, what would you wish into the world?
A new organism,
Hmm.
like
Any
world
living
scale,
thing,
world
any
scale.
living thing.
Mm. 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 I don't know right now, but I don't know. Yeah, it would not be an organization, but it would be.
No, no,
I would love
a
the
living
people.
thing, an organism.
Create an organism.
Yes.
That's it. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Um, uh, a tree with watermelons on it.
Oh, wow.
A heart.
I mean, there's a couple of tropical things that come pretty close to that. So yeah, yeah, I can see that. Or even a watermelon that can climb a tree and produce up in the canopy. That could be interesting.
Why not? A diversified harvest within the same tree.
Yes, yeah, less waiting. Now, if people want to follow up more, and particularly, I'll get this episode out very quickly to follow and find the conference so they can participate and in the audience. Where can people learn more about what you do?
Oh, I'm kind of active on the Going to Sit forum.
Hmm.
So that would be the main link, and then I'm active on my francophone, the Talking French forum. I could give you the link to it too,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I
That
could
in the
send
show
you my
notes.
email. So I never did any podcast or interview, so that's my first. Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I don't have any Substack right now. Yeah, I'm kind of active on my French group, and I've been writing down some papers, some pages, like 60 pages of a report of last year growing season.
Hmm.
So that should be accessible either directly from me by email or on PEPS or Going to Sit forum.
Excellent, excellent. And yes, I'll put links to the upcoming conference as well too, which people can
Thank you.
jump across and check that out as well. So,
Yep.
Thomas, thank you so much for taking the time to chat.
Thank you, Shane. It's been a pleasure.